Welcome back, everybody, to episode 65 of On the Wild. I'm your host, Riley Keenan. With me, as always, Anuj Bhaskar. The Leafs lost Game 6, and we're headed to another Game 7 on Saturday night. We're filming this on Friday. You watched overtime of Game 6, so I got to ask, what were your takeaways from that OT?
First of all, a Leafs Game 7 is just like a yearly occurrence at this point. It's just a foregone conclusion. But yeah, in overtime, preface this, I'm not like the biggest hockey fan. I'm not the most knowledgeable of the game, but to me, it felt like the Leafs dominated overtime. They had a lot of opportunities to end the game, but also credit to Vasilevsky. Is that how you say his last name? Yeah. The Lightning goalie. He made some great saves, but I feel like the Leafs kind of missed a bunch of opportunities. And yeah, I mean, they were up 3-2 in the third period with your season, or with a chance to go on to the second round. I feel like they should have been able to close that out. But, I mean, it's Game 7 in Toronto. See what happens. I know I picked Leafs in 7 when Ian was on.
Yeah.
But I don't know. With that type of loss, it's sort of heartbreaking. I mean, they cut to Maple Leaf Square when the Lightning scored, and it was just people with their hands on their mouth, just like, oh, not again.
Just dead silent.
Yeah, it was just it's tough. It's heartbreaking. So I don't know how they'll bounce back, but hopefully they get it done, because I don't know how much the city of Toronto can take anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. Listen, it went a lot of the way I predicted. I said in our predictions video, I said the Leafs got to close it out in Game 6. If it goes to a Game 7, I got to go with Tampa. And now I'm stuck in that situation where I want to have that optimism because I love the Leafs, but at the same time, we've seen the history of how it goes, and at the same time, also we're playing the back-to-back champs in the form of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are no slouch. Like, every single game in this series has been a battle, whether it's been one side or the other. To be able to win Game 6, to be able to win Game 5 was massive for the Leafs because they were down 2-0, and then the same thing happens in Game 6 here. They get the 3-2 lead, massive goals from John Tavares back to back, like 33 seconds apart, and Matthews gets on the board. So big players showing up in big moments, but at the end of the day, they shot themselves in the foot in this game. It should have been a 3-1 win at the end of the day. The first two goals, Kerfoot makes a no-look pass to Brody, who was going off on a change. A bit of a miscommunication there. Tough goal. And then the second one, Giordano battles after a tough play by Mikheyev to turn it over. But Strelly makes a spinorama goal. It was disgusting. Let's be real. It was a gross goal. It's tough to stop. But be able to go back up 3-2 and then once again shoot yourself in the foot in the third period by getting a high-sticking penalty, which we all saw the replay. Kampf didn't hit him in the face. It was quite an incredible embellishment from Cal Foot. And then, they proceed to get another high-sticking penalty from Kerfoot, which if you watch your teammate get a high-sticking penalty and you get one right after that, that's about as low IQ as it gets, in my opinion. I've talked about it with a lot of Leafs fans and just people in general that love hockey. You don't lift your stick up like that. You got to keep it low to the ground. So they shoot themselves in the foot. They go on a 5-on-3 and Tampa scores. It's tough. And like you said, in overtime, Toronto dominated. They dominated, but Tampa, they capitalized on their chance. Leafs weren't able to bury. So it's tough. It's grim going into Game 7. I'm optimistic. I'm very hopeful because this series been, home teams are 6-0 in this series. So the Leafs are up home ice now. But, I mean, it's going to be an absolute
battle.
Are they? They're 6. Yeah. No, sorry. I'm totally wrong. It's been back and forth the entire series. Yeah, I'm thinking of Suns Mavericks here. Yeah. But, we'll get to that. But, yeah, listen, it's gone back and forth every game. So the odds makers are saying the Leafs are the slight favorite. But I think everyone and their mother knows Tampa's the favorite in this game.
That's just the home field or home ice advantage.
Exactly. And yeah, and listen, even if the Leafs do lose that game, as long as it's not in horrendous fashion like it was last year and the year before that, I walk away obviously not happy. I'm disappointed, but I can't be pissed off. They're playing a spectacular team in the form of Tampa, and they've had some of the best performances they've had in the playoffs in recent history. They've been battling, and Tavares has caught a lot of flack. He's had great couple games. Nylander's been phenomenal. Matthews and Marner have been great. The role players have been stepping up, and the D's been good. And Campbell has been a much better goalie than a lot of people give him credit for. He was going in, aside from Game 6, he was the best goalie in this series. Vasilevsky struggled in a couple of the games, but yeah, I couldn't be any more nervous for this game. It's going to be so tough, but whoever moves on is going to absolutely deserve it at the end of the day. And that's the way she goes. But Yeah.
Even the goal that the Lightning scored in overtime, it was like a rebound that just kind of squeaked through. Like it was
Yeah.
just
And you watch the replay, Bunting and rookie of the year candidate Bunting, 26 years old, by the way, is going for the puck. And if just you see him and Justin Hall both go for it and they knock it into the net, if Hall doesn't go for it, Bunting would have kept it out, which just sucks to see. But I mean, it's both guys battling for the puck. They're giving it all there. But yeah, I don't like the people calling out the refs saying that's the reason why they lost. It was the penalty calls were tough, but at the end of the day, you got to keep your stick down. And yeah, the refereeing has been abysmal the entire playoffs, and it's been abysmal for every single team. So it's not just slanting one way in the favor of Tampa. It's been bad in general. And it was great to see that they put the whistles away a bit in this game, because it was the first time I think in the first period there wasn't more than 10 penalty minutes or something like that. But yeah, there are a couple bad calls late in the game. It's tough, but
and overtime too. There was no penalty.
Yeah, so they put the whistles away in overtime, which was great. You can't blame it on the referee. You got to bury there in the third. You got a lot of shots on goal, but Vasilevsky had a great overtime and a great game in general. So you got to hand it to Tampa. Heading to Game 7 in Toronto. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be. I'm gonna need to take a fat nap before that game. I need to go in tired, so I'm not excited and in anticipation, because it's unbearable. Yeah, what we've had to deal with as Leafs fans the last few years. Don't want to go through it again.
Are you gonna be in Maple Leaf Square?
I will not be in Maple Leaf Square. I was in Maple Leaf Square last night, and that was, first of all, you can't move. I'm a little claustrophobic. You cannot move there. There's constant people to the side. Also, I had to throw away my Orange Crush. You couldn't bring that in. I was pretty disappointed about that. So that already got me in a rough mood. But it's a great atmosphere. I do recommend it for people that want to go. It's incredibly hype. When we were down 2-0, it was tough. But as soon as they went up 3-2, I mean, the place it just erupted. It was a great atmosphere to be in. But I'll most likely be in Brampton for that game. I'm incredibly excited, and I'm also petrified for it. But now moving on to the NBA playoffs in the second round, the Heat advanced past the 76ers last night in a 99-90 win. I mean, there's one clear outlier in that series, but what is the main focus for you that you look at after that series finished?
James Harden fell off a cliff. Like it's honestly sad to watch. Like some of the plays, I saw a tweet last night. It was like of Maxey passing him the ball, and Maxey was all mad at him. The next play, he's trying to dribble around 3 or 4 people, Harden is, and he got stripped of the ball. It's just kind of like sad. It's sad. Like it's just he's not the same player at all. Even Embiid said it after the game, which I'm not a huge fan of him saying that. He kind of cleared it up after, saying like we all should have been more aggressive, but we know what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
That Harden isn't the same player, which he isn't, but as his teammate, I don't think he should have said that. Also saying like, I don't know how we let Jimmy Butler go. He made some questionable remarks in his post-game press conference, but I don't know where the Sixers go from here. They're stuck with James Harden. He's going to opt into I think it's a $47 million player option. He's going to opt into that. He's not going to let that go. And from there, I mean, you still have Maxey, you still have Embiid. I feel like he's kind of a dark horse to demand a trade this offseason. I can really see that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, they're keeping Doc Rivers. I just saw it now. Who I don't know how he's still living off a championship he won 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Even if he got fired, the Lakers were going to pounce on him. So I really don't understand why Doc Rivers is still a huge name in head coaching, because he hasn't done anything since 2008.
Yeah.
So blown multiple 3-1 leads, as much as you'd like to make excuses about it, it did happen, and he's kind of the common denominator with all those teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Philadelphia's in a tough spot because they didn't improve from last year. They lost in the second round last year. Ben Simmons didn't score in the second half in I think games 6 and 7, or maybe scored like a couple points. James Harden didn't score last night in the second half. So you kind of have that same problem of aggressiveness.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They're in a tough spot.
Yeah, it's kind of baffling.
Not going anywhere.
You were talking about Doc, and he said it himself. He thought he did a terrific job, which, I mean, I don't know if you want to go boasting that when the entire world is coming against you right now. But I mean, it comes down to Harden. First of all, like you said, you can't take 2 shots in the second half of a game when you're a superstar. Which, first of all, I think the idea of James Harden being a superstar needs to be put in question.
He's not even a star anymore. He's like
he's a shell of himself.
He's a playmaker.
Yeah. Now. He's turned into a playmaker, and I want to know how much of that has to do with being in Brooklyn and having to take that step back, and if that was really a confidence shock. But at the same time, this is one of the greatest scores that we have ever seen in this game. 3 years in a row of nearly 30 points per game. This guy can do it with the best of them. And, like I said, to take 2 shots in the second half is just embarrassing. You got to be aggressive, and you got to know. And like I said, you can put the onus, Embiid talks about after, I think, game 4 or 5, putting Doc and James Harden into question. So Doc needs to, he needs to be on James more about shooting and forcing him to be more active out there. But at the same time, you could see it that Doc called plays for Harden, and Harden, didn't want anything to do with it. It was a lot like, in game 6 or 7, I think game 7 of the Bucks Nets series last year. In the last possession when Harden brought the ball up the court and he said, KD, take it. He's got that same mindset now, and it is truly baffling that he's going in with that mindset, because there's a lot of dogs on this team. Maxey was great. Embiid, he's dealing with the ligament, he's dealing with the face, his knee's still, concussion, his knee's still not fully healthy. He's giving everything he has for this team and this city, and Harden just brought none of it. And to me, I said this when we first started the podcast. I can't remember what episode it was or what the context was, but I said James Harden and Russell Westbrook will never win a championship. And I still hold that belief to this day, because Westbrook, obviously he's fallen off a little bit, and it is what it is. With age, you're gonna struggle a little more as you go. But Harden has just quit, it seems like, on his career, on his teams, and on himself. He quit on Houston. He quit on Brooklyn, and it seems like he's quit on Philadelphia, even though he says he wants to be back. He seems like he wants nothing to do with Doc, and it seems like it's his fault. But at the same time, you're the one on the court. You got to be the one to make a difference. You're one of the best ISO scorers I've ever seen. Take over the game, man. Like, you can. But yeah, it's just embarrassing to watch. I really don't know what Philly does from here. Obviously, you got to build around Embiid at the end of the day. You got to get a couple 3-and-D guys, because I don't think Danny Green's the guy for the future.
Well, he's injured now, so
he did get hurt, which sucks to see. And he started off 1-for-1, but I mean, he had a couple good games this playoffs. But at the end of the day, he's been mostly invisible, at least on the offensive side on the floor. You got to be playing guys like Shake Milton and Thibault more, but you got to get some serious pieces in this offseason. Or, like you said, Embiid is a dark horse to ask for a trade. And to be honest, I think he has every right to do so with the way management is held. Since Butler, like. I'm not huge on players, like, not necessarily disrespecting organizations and stuff like that, but seeing Butler say, Tobias Harris over me, I kind of liked it to an extent, because at the time, that's what we were all thinking. It's like, why are you not getting Butler back? It didn't make any sense at the time. And to see him perform the way he did in that series, with the chip on the shoulder that he had, it just proved to Philly that, they made the wrong move. And once again, did they make the wrong move by trading Simmons? Because obviously he hasn't played yet, but we've seen how Harden has turned out.
Going back to Butler, I think by all reports, it was because Ben Simmons and Brett Brown, who was the coach at the time, didn't like Butler. Neither of those people are still with the Sixers, which is funny. But going back to your point about Harden and Westbrook, I think there's some similarities there. But, like, I didn't think that Harden would fall off the way Westbrook did, because Westbrook is so reliant on his athleticism. That's the premise of his game, is that he is so athletic, getting to the rim and finishing around the rim. But Harden is insanely skilled. I mean, just a couple of years ago, we were talking about him being the most skilled player of all time, the best one-on-one player we've ever seen. So I didn't think that if he were to lose some sort of athleticism, that he would fall off to that degree. I mean, yeah, his first step isn't going to be as explosive, and they've talked about it a lot on TNT and whatnot. But I thought with his skill, with his bag, he wouldn't be what he is right now, which is just a shell of himself. And people are saying he's injured, but they've been making that excuse for 1.5 years. He hasn't been injured for 1.5 years. Yeah. Last year, I understand, because he was visibly injured in the Nets Bucks series, like he was limping and everything. So give him that. But this year, I don't think that's a valid excuse for him.
Not at all, especially with how Embiid played without Simmons. They didn't necessarily need Harden throughout the regular season. You were going to win, at least 45 games without him. So if he was truly injured, he would have had time off. So to be able to play that entire season and come into the playoffs like this it's truly shocking. And to an extent, I feel for Philly fans, but at the same time, all of them, saying, "Oh, we got our revenge on the Raptors." The team was in development. So
yeah, this is a transition year for the Raptors.
Yeah, it's a transition year, and they're a 5 seed. So
yeah,
they'll be coming back next year. We'll see how the Sixers do, but obviously the Heat move on to the next round, and we'll see the Bucks Celtics play tonight in Game 6. So we'll see who takes them on soon enough. I think the Bucks take it home tonight. Personally, they're on their home court. I think Boston's going to give it every shot they got, but I think
they're going to go to Game 7.
Think they're going to go to Game 7. I thought Boston had that Game 5. They had it, and as soon as Milwaukee started taking over, first of all, Giannis was great, but Drew Holiday proved he's a champion. I mean, on the defensive end in the last few minutes, the block, the steal at the end were great. He had a massive 3. It's great to see. I think they'll close it tonight, just coming off of that momentum. But Boston's going to make it tough. But you think going to 7?
Yeah, I think they're going to go 7. But Boston had Game 5 and Game 3. They blew both of those games. In all honesty, it should be a done series. It should be Heat Celtics. So I think the Celtics close it tonight, and then Game 7, it's a toss-up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you this because I'm just curiosity. If Boston were to win this series and they head on to face Miami, is that Miami-Boston, does that become a massive rivalry in the NBA? Because we've seen that matchup a lot. Obviously, we saw it a couple of years ago in the bubble. But I mean, when LeBron was battling with Boston, we saw it a lot. Is this somewhat of a rivalry at this point? Can we say that?
Not yet. If they play again like the next year or something like that, but not yet. I think I will say if Boston were to beat Miami, then it would be kind of like that 1-1 thing. I think Milwaukee and Miami is more of a rivalry than Miami and Boston.
Yeah. This will be the 4th time they would match up in the last 4 years. If they were
I know in the last 3 years they played each other, but I don't know if it's 4.
Because in the bubble, Miami eliminated them. All right, I guess
last year.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, Miami beat them in 5, and then Milwaukee swept Miami last year.
Yeah.
And this would be 3 straight.
But then also tonight at 10, the Grizzlies play the Warriors. Obviously, Ja Morant's out once again. It's looking like he'll miss the entire playoffs if the Grizzlies were to advance. It's in Golden State. What do you think?
I think Golden State closes it out. I think Game 5 was kind of like that. Steph was talking about. He was talking. Draymond was talking. Mm-hmm. So kind of like that bulletin board materials type of thing for Memphis, and Golden State just kind of came out flat, which kind of surprised me. But I think they closed it out tonight on their home floor. If they were to go to Game 7, that would be kind of entertaining because, blowing another 3-1 lead. But, I personally would love to see a Game 7, especially without Ja. That would be interesting. But I think Golden State finishes off tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Golden State finishes it off just after a horrible loss in Game 5. I mean, it was tough to watch. I turned the game off after the first quarter. It was just such a dominant victory from Memphis. But I would love to see it go to Game 7 because we know how good Memphis has been this year without Ja. It would be quite the story if they were to, overcome a lot of people's favorites to win the championship because the way they were playing in the first round in the first couple of games, it looked like the Warriors are the team to beat. And I still think they can be. But if let's say if the Grizzlies do win in 7, what does that say about, Steph Curry's legacy or, the Warriors in general?
I mean, it'll make it like KD needed the Warriors and the Warriors needed KD. That's going to be the headline after if they were to lose the series.
Yeah. Which if you're KD, you're loving it. You're loving it.
Yeah.
Because right now he is in the dumps.
Yeah. Because if Golden State were to win the title this year, that creates a huge dent in KD's legacy, at least for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see though. It'll be crazy. The internet will go crazy if they were to blow another 3-1 lead, especially without Ja. Without Ja, that would be insane.
Yeah. And I'm curious to ask this because, Desmond Bain had some comments. He said, obviously, Stephen Curry's the best shooter in the world. And he initially put himself second, but then someone said Clay. And he said, okay, Clay's second, but I'm third. Obviously, that's a confidence thing. And that's something, you want to hear from a guy like, oh, he believes in himself that he's going to be a dominant player in this league. But it's a little early in his career. And I don't know if he's done enough to be able to say that yet. What do you think about that statement?
I mean, I don't have a list off the top of my head, but he's up there. I mean, he's shot 40% from three, I think, in both of his years so far. He's a great defender. We've said it before. He's built like a linebacker. I
Yeah.
love Desmond Bain, and I like that he's confident
Yeah.
because I mean that's kind of like the whole thing with Memphis. They're confident and borderline arrogant, which
Yeah.
can rub people the wrong way. It's rubbed me the wrong way a couple of times. Just after, like, especially in the Minnesota series,
Yeah.
when they're doing like the gritty on their logo. It's like, okay, they're the 7 seed. You went to 6 games. Like, it's not
Yeah.
really something to celebrate. But I mean, that's just who they are, which I
Yeah.
mean is cool.
It's kind of funny. They take offense to disrespect, even if it's not even even if it's just the Warriors being like, "Yeah, this is our series." And I'm just being like, "Are you kidding me? Like, do you know who we are?" Like, I find it pretty funny. And like you said, yeah, there's been a couple times where it's like, "All right, Memphis, dial it back a little." But I like the confidence. Sometimes it's mixed with arrogance, but
Like, they'll get mad at opposing fans like disrespecting them. Well, they're opposing fans. They're not gonna like
yeah.
cheer for you.
What do you
Like, you're
expect?
in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like,
Have you seen Embiid in Toronto or
yeah.
like Kevin Durant every time he touches the ball in a away game? It's the way it goes in the NBA.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then obviously the last game of the series, we're heading to Game 7 for Suns Mavericks. I believe it's on Sunday, so it'll be
Sunday, yeah.
the day after this comes out, I think, or unless this comes out Sunday morning. But
Saturday. It's coming out Saturday.
so obviously, yeah, Dallas wins Game 6. Luka, an incredible performance. I mean, I think it was like 113-86, something like that. Luka had 30.
Blowout.
Yeah, it was blowout. Luka had like 33, 11, and 8. Dinwiddie had one of his best games he's had in the playoffs. I think he was like 5 for 7 from 3 off the bench. Finney Smith struggled a bit, but they were firing on all cylinders, and Phoenix just didn't have it. And Chris Paul, I mean, he has not brought it in the last 3 games. I think he's averaging like 8 points, 7 assists, like 3 or 4 turnovers. It's been real rough for him. So what are your thoughts heading into this Game 7?
This is like one of the weirdest series I've ever watched in my life. Like, the away game has been gotten blown out in every single game.
Yeah.
There's been no sort of momentum continuity at all. It's gone 2-2, 1-1, which is like, I mean, by all account, by like that logic, the Suns are going to blow out the Mavericks in Game 7, which I don't think is going to happen. I think it'll be a lower scoring, more defensive game, just because it's win or go home. But I think I'll lean towards the Suns, but I would not be surprised if Luka goes for like 45 and somebody like a Finney Smith or a Brunson kind of chips in a little bit with 18 or something, and they pull it out late. But I'm gonna go Phoenix just because I picked them before the playoffs started. And I just think they're just a better team, top to bottom. So they have the coach of the year, they have the superstars. Chris Paul needs to play better though, like you said. He's been really struggling ever since game 3. So hopefully he can get back on track.
Yeah, like the Suns are built for a Game 7. They're like probably the most well-oiled machine in the league, and we've seen that from, I mean, the season they had to win 60-plus games, and obviously Williams definitely deserved Coach of the Year. But Luka is the best player in this series, and that can travel a lot of weight. So yeah, like he's going to need to have a massive game to win, because I don't think you're going to get the same kind of results from Dinwiddie. Like, he had a near perfect game to off the bench. A guy like Finney Smith and Kleber have struggled a bit on the road. They're better at home. So it's going to be tough, and it's going to be a hostile atmosphere. We know what Phoenix is like. It's crazy in that building. But like, listen, Chris Paul has been struggling, but we know what he can do in a Game 7. He's always brought it, and a guy like Booker has that experience now after a long playoff run last year. As much as I just said, Luka's the best player in this series, Booker has every opportunity to be the best guy in that game. He needs to. I think he had 17 shots last game. I think he made 5 or 6 of them. He needs to be taking 20 shots, and Paul has to be that facilitator and the point guard we know he can be. But I think ultimately, I think it's going to come down to the role players on both sides, because Doncic is going to get you 28, 30 points, and he's going to be a good facilitator. But guys have to step up and hit shots. And if you're Phoenix, Bridges has to shut down defensively. Ayton has to get a lot more looks on the inside, because there is no one on Dallas that could stop him. There's no one. So they have to utilize him. Obviously, the lob game has been huge, but the pick and roll can be used a hell of a lot more, especially with Booker and Paul, who are knocked down from mid-range. So I'm taking the Suns as well, because I think they are going to make the finals and they're going to make that push. But I agree. It's going to be a lower scoring game, definitely a defensive-minded game that I can see being, under 205, if you're a betting man. But yeah, it's going to be a battle, and I'm super excited for that. This is the most excited I've been for a playoff game all playoffs, just because, Phoenix, I love watching them. They're the team I believe in the most in the NBA right now, or not right now, heading into the playoffs. But Dallas, Luka Doncic is the best show in basketball right now. And, he's making a case for being the best playoff performer. Obviously, he's only been in 3 playoffs, and he's been in 4 rounds, but in what he's done in such little time, it's been incredibly impressive.
Yeah, for sure. He's gonna have a great game. It's just a matter of everybody else, like you said, the role players. And I trust the Suns role players more than I do the Mavericks.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with that, the NFL schedule came out last night, so we may as well talk about that a little bit. Just our favorite teams, what we think of our schedules, and how we think our teams will finish. Guess I'll start it off with the Falcons. I see a 5-12, 6-11 type of season. Their schedule is just a gauntlet, especially the first half. Well, like the first 7 games, it's the Saints, Rams, Seahawks, Browns, Buccaneers, 49ers, Bengals. The first 7 games. Now, if Deshaun Watson gets suspended, that makes that Browns game a little easier, I guess. They still have an amazing roster. But other than that, if they make it out of that 3-4, they're on to something. But I really see it like a 2-5 start. And from there, maybe they pick up a couple W's. But for me, this season for the Falcons, it's more about the young players. They're probably going to be the youngest roster in the NFL, if I were to guess, or one of the youngest rosters. And with that, this season is more of like a transitional year, a rebuild year, whatever you want to call it. As long as the young players develop and there's real growth, players like Richie Grant, Jalen Mayfield on the offensive line, if they can all take steps up, and players like Drake London, Ebiketie, Troy Anderson, who I love. We never really got to talk about the draft. I love what the Falcons did in the draft.
Incredible job.
Yeah, so they picked up a lot of great players with a lot of great potential. I want to see Desmond Ridder play because the Falcons are going to have another top pick next year, probably in the top 10. I want to see him play just to see what they have. Yeah. I've seen a lot of Dak Prescott comparisons. If he is that in year 1, then obviously you ride it out with him and you don't pick a quarterback next year. But if you were to struggle and you have a top pick, then you go after, the Strouds or the Bryce Youngs. But if he's good, then you give him another year. And Superman comes in next year, Caleb Williams. So
yeah, maybe
you try and go get him if Ridder struggles in his first couple of years. But yeah, like I said, it's just more of a developmental year. Hopefully they can. They're a better team in week 17, and the young players have grown enough to where they're bona fide players, and they'll have $100 million in cap room next year. I've talked about it a lot on this podcast. So they're really well set up for 2023, but 2022 I feel like is a transition.
Yeah, it's true. And what do you say? 7-10, 8-9?
I say 5-12.
Oh, wow.
Or 6-11.
Yeah, that's totally fair, especially in a transition year.
With their schedule too, if they were to have an easier schedule, I could see maybe 8 wins. I think this Falcons team is a way better team than it was last year. Even though they did lose Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley's gone for the year, I still think this is a way better roster. But with their schedule, they're playing the AFC North and the NFC West. And they have the Chargers, NFC South, obviously. It's a really tough schedule. So next year in 2023, they play the NFC North and the AFC South, which is a lot easier. So I expect them to be a lot better in that year. Yeah.
Now, looking at the Browns schedule, obviously you have to take it with a grain of salt because you don't really know what the quarterback situation is going to look like. Yeah. I'd imagine that Deshaun gets 6 games. You could even get 8. You said it before we started that, he could appeal it and possibly even get 4. Obviously, that'd be best case scenario, but
that's what I think is going to happen. It's going to be a 6-game suspension, and since he missed all of last year and all the cases are pending, he'll appeal it and it'll get down to 4.
Yeah, and I think under the circumstances, that's pretty fair. I think they lucked out in terms of scheduling because of the situation that they're in. Weeks 1 to 4, they got Panthers, Jets, Steelers, Falcons. Obviously, none of those games are gimmies, but if you're starting with Brissett, you could have Baker. Depending on what the situation is like, I highly doubt it. I'm assuming they're going to cut
Can't
him
keep.
anytime soon.
They can't keep him on the roster.
They can't. It's just a bad situation, and there's a lot of animosity there, at least for Baker's side. So I mean, if you're going with Brissett, let's say for argument's sake, Deshaun misses the first 6 games, you got to try to split it 3-3. It's going to be tough. Carolina's game you got to win. New York's game that you got to win. Steelers is going to be tough, but you should win that game as well. But Falcons, Chargers, Patriots, they're all going to give you a tough time. The Falcons, they're no slouch. They give good teams a run for their money, as they did the Buccaneers this year and the Saints. But looking at the schedule, it's pretty damn tough. Obviously, they got to play the AFC North, each team in that division twice. But they play the Chargers, they play the Saints, the Buccaneers, the Bills, the Dolphins. It's going to be tough. I'm thinking a 10-7, 9-8 season because of the fact that Deshaun will miss time, and Brissett coming into the lineup. I don't really know how much of a game changer he can be, but if I'm looking at it from an optimistic perspective, I'm going to say 11-6 because this team, for over the course of the last 3 years, we knew the one issue, and that was the quarterback. And to bring in a guy that, for argument's sake, is a top 7 quarterback in the league, could be top 5 when it's all said and done. You got a top 2 offensive line, a top 3 running back. And I honestly think, I personally believe, and this could be a stretch, I think Derrick Henry takes a step back this year. So I think Chubb has the opportunity to be a top 2 running back. And then you got a great route runner in Amari Cooper. You're going to get other guys in the wide receiver room. The defense has improved a hell of a lot, especially in the secondary. We know, the D-line is going to bring it. So, this team should be a true contender in the AFC and in the NFL as a whole. But, because of the unexpected, absence of, or not unexpected absence, not knowing the situation with Deshaun right now, I'll say 11-6. But,
if he were to miss that amount of time, I think it'll be hard for them to make it up in their division, because I think their division is going to be one of the best divisions. Even Pittsburgh, who I think is the worst team on paper, I still think they're a really good team.
Yeah.
I think Baltimore is going to be really good this year, just because I think they're going to sign the receiver, maybe Jarvis Landry. I think he'd be a good fit because he's a willing blocker. And I love what they've done all offseason. I love what they did in the draft. I texted you multiple times about how great of a draft Baltimore had. So I think the Bengals improved their offensive line, which was their biggest weakness, as we saw in the Super Bowl. So I think every team in that division is going to be really good. So if you're missing Watson for 4 or 6 games, maybe even 8, I don't know how much it's gonna, or how they make it up later, because they're gonna lose a couple games without him because he is Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would say a wild card is more likely, but with the way the AFC is, a 10-win team may miss the playoffs, which is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun season. But yeah, it'll be tough. It'll be tough for the Browns, but I mean, I think they can squeak out some games. I don't really know how much of a difference Brissett will be from Baker, because this team's going to know their motto right now, and they're going to be running the ball downfield. But I think Brissett, he'll be able to get it done. I think he's going to be able to get a couple wins. On Indianapolis, he was pretty solid, and when, obviously he was the Patriots, but when Brady was out because of the Deflategate, I think Brissett, what did he go, like 3-1 in those games? It's a lot of the same.
Well, he only played 1 game. Garoppolo played.
Oh yeah, Garoppolo did play. Yeah,
he got injured in one of the games.
Yeah, but I think they got the win in that one. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think he beat Miami or something like that. I don't quite remember.
Listen, Miami's always been a pretty solid defensive team. But yeah, I agree with you with Pittsburgh. I think they'll be the weakest team in the division. But listen, they've been the playoff team 2 of the last 3 years. And I think Trubisky is going to be a good quarterback. I think he was in a bad situation in Chicago. This guy was a number 2 pick for a reason.
Nah.
So,
I mean, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes are in that draft.
Yeah, it's a tough. It was a tough round. Thank goodness the Browns went with Garrett over Trubisky. But yeah, I don't think he's a slouch. I think he's going to put up a good comeback. I think he has the potential to win comeback player of the year just from, having a solid performance. I don't think he'll win it, but he has a chance. But yeah, every game is going to be tough this season. This is the most excited I've ever been for the NFL, obviously, just because the Browns have a serious chance this year. But yeah, there's just so many great teams. There's a lot of great young players, and I'll go back to Baltimore because you said it best. They had a phenomenal draft, but it it really pisses me off. Every year they seem to get my favorite player in the draft. They got Marlon Humphrey, they got Rashawn Bateman, and now they got Kyle Hamilton. Like I genuinely believe Kyle Hamilton was the best player in that draft, and they got him at what, 14?
Yeah.
An absolute steal. So
Now, I honestly think Tyler Linderbaum makes them a better offense than Marquise Brown does.
yeah. Yeah.
They're a run-based offense. Marquise Brown is not a great blocker.
Yeah.
And Tyler Linderbaum is going to be a Pro Bowl center for the next 10 years, in my opinion.
You're absolutely right.
You get a Jabo in the second round who would have been a top 10 pick if he didn't get hurt. He won't play this year, but in years 2 and going forward, he's going to be a great player. Travis Jones, who was projected to go in the early second, maybe even first round, to get him in the third round. Like, it's just value picks the whole draft. It's crazy.
Yeah, and we never got to talk about that trade with Arizona, but I think that Linderbaum's obviously going to be massive for Baltimore, but Brown on Arizona is going to be huge. Obviously, we heard the news of DeAndre Hopkins is going to be suspended, so he'll be the number 1 guy for a while. And I like his chances because I think he fits well in that Arizona offense, especially with Kyler. Obviously, there's a bit of uncertainty there, but they're going to be rolling.
They played with each other in college.
Yeah, exactly. They already got that chemistry, so I'm pretty sure. In Oklahoma. Yeah. They played in Oklahoma because I know Baker played with Brown for a year.
They both got.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be extremely interesting. But yeah, I mean, I can't put too much confidence into the season because of the uncertainty, but it'll be fun.
And I'm not making a Super Bowl pick like last year. I have no idea.
No, yeah, I have no clue. Obviously, we'll cross that bridge when we get there at the beginning of the season. But right now, I mean, who knows? It's like it could be anybody. If I had to make a choice right now, I'd maybe say Rams. I don't even know. I couldn't even say that.
I may lean Bills.
Yeah, I think that's Bills. But even then, can they get over the hump? I think so. They're apparently the favorite right now.
They are.
I think they're like plus 650, which is pretty remarkable.
But I don't know. But before we wrap it up, a couple albums dropped the last 2 weeks. Well, technically last week. Kendrick Lamar dropped last night, and Jack Harlow dropped last week. Yeah. So we'll just before we wrap up, just quick thoughts on it. We'll start with Jack Harlow since he dropped first. What did you think of the album? And
yeah, I had a lot of anticipation for this one because I really liked That's What They All Say. And I've been listening to Jack since 2018, I think, with Gazebo, songs like that. So I was hoping he was going to bring a bit of that, not grime rap, but like he's got this intense style with some of his songs that I thought he was going to bring into this because he's got a bit more swagger in the industry right now. And he's worked his way up a lot in what he's explained, but I don't think he brought it with this album. Come Home, The Kids Miss You, I think it was a dope name, but from the get-go, I didn't like the first couple songs. I already said it before. First Class I thought was not it. Nail Tech I loved, and that's what I was hoping the album was going to be a lot like, but it wasn't. I get the style he was going for. I thought the features he had were great. Pharrell Williams, the song that they had together was great. Justin Timberlake was solid. Churchill Downs, probably the best song on the album with Drake. The bar about Toronto in the snow was awesome from Jack, and then Drake does the Kentucky Derby bar, which I thought was sick. But at the end of the day, I don't think we were his demographic, and I think you'll probably get into that a little bit more too. But it felt like it was for 17, 18-year-old girls.
It was. Yeah. I thought it was trash, but like the intro wasn't bad. The song with Drake was really good, and that was Jack Harlow's best part on the album, best verse on the album, and then Drake washed him. So I think, like you said, we're not the demographic. 51% of his lyrics were about women or seducting women.
Yeah.
So, we're just not the demographic for this album.
No.
And that's pretty much all.
Not even Future or The Weeknd is getting that high of a percentage.
Yeah, I know. Which, by the way, Future dropped a great album. I love Future's album.
It was awesome. I really liked it. But Jack, I get what you were trying to do. I think you got to separate yourself on this next one, whenever that does come out, because he's the hottest name in rap right now. And
he's one of them. But like he came in with the Drake comparisons. I think the difference between him and Drake is that Drake made music kind of like this, where like it's about women, but he also had songs that were about, his feelings, that were more emotional and more insightful. Whereas Jack Harlow's just kind of like, there's no substance to it. And I'm not a huge substance person. I'm not gonna, sit up here like I'm looking at lyrics and I care a lot about lyrics. I don't really, but he'll like say something and he'll just like put in a one-liner just cause. Like there's one about like dictating like Kim Jong or something like that. Just out of nowhere. It's just, I don't know. It's like I feel like he was just trying to make, this is what I said to one of our friends. He was trying to make hits rather than good music.
Yeah.
Like commercially great songs instead of great music. Which, I mean, he fell into the trap of mainstream music.
I agree. And I think the worst bar on that entire album was when he's like, my grandpa would have a heart attack if I pulled $100,000 out.
Oh my God.
What the hell was that?
He was doing great. And then he said that. And I was like, oh, and then a couple bars later, he said, I have to start handing out programs. So y'all need to get with the program.
Yeah.
It just doesn't like, I don't know.
It felt like he was trying to get in his Drake bag. And I think he did a good job, at least on that song. He did a pretty good job. You've heard Tuscan Leather, things like that, where Drake will rhyme the same word a lot, but it wasn't the right moment, and it wasn't a great bar. There was a lot of cringy bars on this album, and that's something you're gonna get with Jack Harlow, and I think that's fine, and he's okay with that. He's that kind of guy where it's like he's gonna say a couple things, and you're gonna be like, hold on, you're gonna do a double take, and he's gonna laugh about it. But this was his big moment, especially after such a good album he had previous. And I think it's just, obviously it is nice to see that he can differentiate himself and have different genres, but I feel like it was such a 180 from the last album and obviously the ones before that it just felt a little weird to the hardcore fan, I guess you could say, because I've been listening to this guy for a while. I listened to his last album all the time, so I was pretty disappointed, as a fan and just as a rap fan in general.
Yeah,
but yeah,
going to Kendrick.
Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah,
Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I thought this was going to be a double album. I thought he was going to drop Mr. Morale and he was going to drop Big Steppers.
Well, it was technically a double album.
Yeah,
1 to 9 and 1 to 9.
18 songs. What did you think?
I thought it was super underwhelming. Like I didn't think it was bad, like at all. Thought it was okay, but if I were to compare it to his other albums, conceptually, it's not as good as To Pimp a Butterfly. In terms of musical value, I don't think it's better than, or like the quality of music, I don't think it's better than Good Kid, Mad City. And then like commercially, like mainstream songs, it's not as good as Damn. It doesn't have like a Humble or a DNA on it. Not to say that it needs that, because it's still gonna sell great, but I don't know. There's just nothing that I took away from this. Like, oh, I really like that. It was just okay.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm also not the biggest Kendrick guy to begin with, so maybe that's a part of it, but I don't know. I thought The Heart Part 5 was better than everything on this album.
Yeah, The Heart Part 5 was incredible. And if you haven't seen that video, I mean, go watch it. It was pretty sick to see him talking from other people's perspectives. But my take on the album, I've only listened to it one time through. I listened to it on the walk to work this morning. I'll say the first 3 songs, United in Grief, N95, Worldwide Steppers, I thought were all phenomenal. I think this is one thing I'll say about the album. I agree with the 3 points you just made in terms of, comparing those 3 albums. I thought those were all great points. I do think from an instrumental perspective, this might be his best album. Every single song, I was just finding myself just nodding my head, wanting to close my eyes while I'm trying to walk in the streets of Toronto. All I wanted to do was close my eyes and lie down. It was such a good instrumental. But I thought a couple of the songs were it's great to be able to tell a story, and that's one thing I love about Kendrick, is that he always is trying to tell you a story. But I think sometimes it overshadowed the music a bit. There was a song, We Cry Together with Taylor Page, where it was a phenomenal instrumental, a great start to the song, but then it was just an argument back and forth. And I get what he was going for there. It was cool, but at the same time, it did ruin the song for me. And I think that happened a couple times on this album. But yeah, listen, I've only listened to it one time through. I really like it, and I think it's going to grow on me even more so. There's not really a standout song I can say, but an 18-song album, I thought it was a pretty cool story. There was a couple, questionable bars, not in terms of like cringiness, but in terms of can you say that? And I'll leave it at that. But I thought it was a good time. I haven't heard Kendrick in 5-6 years. It was awesome to see him come back, and it was it was the perfect thing to take away my depression from that Leafs loss. So yeah, I'm excited to keep listening to it because I did like it the first time through.
That's probably my biggest thing, is that it's been 5 years since he's dropped, and it was kind of underwhelming to me.
Mhm.
But like you said, I think I've listened to it twice, and I feel like I have to listen to it a couple more times
Yeah.
to really grasp it. But I'm sure we'll have a better opinion on it if we were to talk about it next week or the week after. But
Yeah.
it's still fresh, which is, I don't like judging music off a first listen.
Yeah.
So I like to listen to it a couple times, but so far, not the biggest fan, but it's not bad by any means. Like,
Yeah. It's the same way I'm looking at Jack right now. Well, the first time through, I thought there's no way I'm going to listen to this album ever again. But I've been listening to it throughout the week, and now I can pick out like 5 or maybe 6 songs that I liked. I've already liked about 4 or 5 from this one, so I know it's going to be great. I will say, like, I think this is an issue we both have with Kendrick, and it's not an issue. It's just our personal preference in terms of listening to music. But the tone of voice he brings to a particular song, I think, really changes it. When he brings that monotone, deep voice, I'm into it. I've listened to every single word he's saying, but sometimes he'll have a bit of that higher pitched voice. Not as much into that, but that's just me. Listen, I'm sure
I don't.
people out there love it.
The high voice is annoying to me.
Yeah, I don't like
Like
it.
For me, peak Kendrick is like the song "Sing About Me Dying of Thirst." Like there's a comment between the dying of thirst part. Like it was like, I think it's about like 7 minutes into the song. That is my favorite like 3 minutes of Kendrick ever. I don't know if you know that song or not, but that's great. That's like my favorite Kendrick, when he's kind of monotoned and he's just rapping. He's just going.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
the high voice isn't my flavor.
Yeah, it's exactly what he brought in the Heart Part 5. Just spitting, letting him know what he's thinking, and coming in with a bit of I wouldn't say aggression, but a little deeper tone, a little more serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that think the opposite, or think no matter what voice he brings to the table is phenomenal. So yeah, I think it's just amazing that we have a Kendrick album now, because it's been waiting for so long, and I think it's, for me at least, my opinion on him has changed so much in the time in which he hasn't had music releasing. I went from not really listening to his music at all to slowly liking it to Good Kid, Mad City is probably in my top 3 albums of all time now. To Pimp a Butterfly's up there as well. So it's cool. It's cool to be able to just look at that catalog and see the change he's had and the growth he's had. Also, I loved Baby Keem. He wasn't listed, but he's on Savior Interlude, and I thought his verse was awesome on that as well.
I thought he was better on that than Savior itself.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Savior, but
I like Kendrick's part. I didn't like the chorus with.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely.
But with that, that's a great place to wrap up. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment down below, and we will see you all next week. Take it easy.
Stay wild.
Peace.